Pressure is mounting on China to allow UN officials access to the region of Xinjiang after reports of a birth control campaign targeting minorities. The government is accused of subjecting women to pregnancy checks, sterilization, even abortion, with mass detention as a punishment for those who do not comply. Joining me with more on this is manager of China Open Research Network, Scott McKnight. Scott, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Sterilizations in Xinjiang have risen more than fivefold since 2015, so just 5 years ago. IUD placements per capita have been well above the national average for the past 10 years. Why does it appear that this region is being targeted with these measures?
So Xinjiang is a territorially massive part of Western China. It is larger than Quebec. It's larger than any state in the U.S. aside from Alaska, but it's sparsely populated. And among that population are various minorities, many of which are Muslim believers. The biggest group of those minorities, however, is the Uyghur population. Now, China has struggled to control, the Chinese government has struggled to control this faraway province. It has struggled to bring these Muslim minorities, and in particular the Uyghurs, under its control. And this is what's led to an independence movement, various terrorist attacks, and now finally this comprehensive, multi-year, and quite honestly, very ruthless campaign to bring Xinjiang under control by using the mass detention of Muslim men. There are some 1 million plus Muslim men in these detention camps in Xinjiang, this systematic sterilization campaign that you just mentioned, an incredibly dystopian surveillance state that has been built in Xinjiang. This is honestly one of the biggest humanitarian crises in the world right now, but it is very, very unknown, quite honestly.
How are these measures different from the actions China took under the one-child policy that ended in 2015?
Right. So China has ended the one-child policy, and indeed is trying to actually incentivize Han Chinese to procreate. That nationwide birth rate is still around, it's dropped about 4% or so, so a natural decline. However, in Xinjiang, you see the exact opposite. Indeed, this is a mass sterilization program where in certain communities, in certain counties in Xinjiang, the birth rate has collapsed as much as 20%. That is something that is not natural. That is something that must have taken place on a policy level. And indeed, there are now calls openly that not only is there that cultural genocide taking place in Xinjiang, some of which I just mentioned, but now potentially also a demographic genocide as well with this systematic sterilization campaign.
What can the international community do, if anything?
I mean, we should be honest that our individual and government efforts are limited. Western governments have thankfully criticized the Chinese government on this issue. As you mentioned, international organizations are trying to gain access to the region. However, we see when it comes to these core interests for the Chinese Communist Party, a core interest including maintaining territorial integrity, not allowing an independence movement to grow up and to develop, and also not allowing any organized opposition to the Chinese Communist Party rule. Any of these core interests, the Chinese government is willing and has shown its willingness and ability to take extreme measures, including, as we said, building this dystopian mass surveillance state in the region.
What do you think how do you think this tone that's being set is going to be received on a global stage?
Well, I mean, we see that the Chinese government is also extremely sensitive to any of these criticisms, anything relating to its domestic behavior, or quite honestly, its foreign policy behavior as well. Canada knows this very well, given our 18-month or so dispute with China, in which they've used multiple methods like economic blackmail, hostage diplomacy, among other things.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.